Hi, good morning. It's Saturday morning today, and just having a quick walk around in a local area called Bedminster, and you can see there's quite a lot of graffiti here, and this area is quite famous actually. There's an event called Upfest that happens most years. It didn't happen this year, but normally graffiti artists come from around Europe and quite far away, do some amazing work, actually, some really incredible murals. Um, there's all sorts of like crazy tagging here, but there's also quite a lot of amazing graffiti as well. That they do big murals that take quite a long time. There's one here actually that's quite it's got a bit of tagging there, but you can see pretty incredible actually. So yeah, I just thought I'd mention this morning about there's a little verse in Proverbs. This is from the Message translation, and in Proverbs 16, and it says, "Moderation is better than muscle, self-control better than political power." And sometimes we've got these different ideas that what will make a difference, what will exercise power and influence and strength. And my friend this morning was just talking about how he's going to the gym, and he's going with his son actually, who's had a lot better experience in the gym than he has, hoping to strengthen himself. He's doing pretty well. I mean, I'm quite impressed because he's a little bit older than me and he's a lot fitter. So building up your muscles takes a while. His son actually's had an injury and does badminton, and has needed to strengthen up his foot muscles particularly. Reckons probably for about a month that he needs to build that up after a foot injury to get back to the kind of level where he can do badminton like he was doing it before. So there's a great advantage to strengthening our muscles and physical exercise and so on, but sometimes moderation and self-control is even more powerful than political power, which is it's a big deal these days, isn't it? Lots of discussion about political power and influence. You can have political power, but that in itself doesn't make you self-controlled. It doesn't make you necessarily able to control your tongue. Sometimes it's much harder when you're in a position of authority to use your tongue badly. So, but exercising the tongue well, is much more difficult than actual political leadership, and even exercising the muscles. So just my thought today that let's ask God for self-control in everything that we do, and just quickly rifling through a couple of my things here, but yeah, just particularly that God's glory would come on us, and that we would have that strength to be able to be self-controlled, and that we would have the ability to exercise that patience that we need. Sometimes the vision that God's given us, that we've got for the future, is still to come into everything that it needs to be, and it takes some self-control and patience, doesn't it, as well, to allow God to work. And we can be hasty, we can be impulsive. It's easy to want to react quickly. Looking just recently at some of the events in John's Gospel in the life of Jesus, you realise actually his timings, how interesting his timings are in how they worked out. That he had things that sometimes he had a waiting time for things to happen. It wasn't immediate. He waited for the right time to go and see Lazarus, for example. I was talking about that the other day in one of my little talks. So there's always a waiting time. God came at the right time, just at the right time, and his timing for things changing is not always our timing. It's not always on our schedule, but with God's schedule, it's always good. I was interested about a bird the other day. I saw a little postcard which I'm just going to show you. Here we are. this bird. It's called a hoopoe, and beautiful postcard I saw in the shop. I thought I'd get that. It's one of my favourite birds, and sometimes I feel like God speaks to me through birds, and I used to always enjoy bird watching as a kid, and often I'm thinking like, that bird is interesting. It's got very specific characteristics, and every flower, animal, or bird has always got like a distinctiveness, uniqueness about it. And the hoopoe is a very interesting one. A lovely, lovely, lovely bird. I've seen one in the UK, but they're more common in places like France and through the Mediterranean as well. And I loved seeing them in the south of France when we went to visit with some friends there. Very colourful, beautiful birds. And the hoopoe is a very interesting bird. That it's a very distinctive bird for the nation of Israel as well, because of its migration route going through there. It understands about timing, and like many of the birds that are migrant birds, they have to make sure that they get their timing right when they should be somewhere, and they look at the weather, or they're trying to gauge when it's safe to be crossing a large sea or body of water. The hoopoe, I've seen them in the desert in Israel, so they have to travel through quite difficult terrain, and where they've got to make sure that they've got the food and water to keep them going when they cross over areas that are perhaps there's no resources for them. They're trying to migrate through, so timing is all important. And sometimes when they arrive in the UK as well, they sometimes what they call overshoot. In other words, they're aiming for France or something like that, and they end up going a bit further, end up in the south of England, sometimes quite tired and exhausted. So it's always great to get our timing right, not to rush ahead too far and not to lag behind, but to understand God's timing. That requires patience and self-control, doesn't it? And so that's my prayer today, that we'll have the patience and timing that God has for us. We have the self-control that we need, because we live in a world where there's lots of power, there's lots of muscle being exercised, there's lots of opinions being spoken about, and lots of people trying to influence. But doing things in God's time is always really, really important.